Gon' kick it off then. Whoa. Gon' kick it off then. It ain't a game, kick it off then. Whoa. So gon' kick it off then. Huh? What we talking about, it goes deep.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching GSP in the network. We're back with another episode of WTF Too, Women Talk Football Too. I'm Latasha Miles, aka Joan Madden, the Gridiron Goddess, and I am accompanied by my beautiful, awesome, charismatic, and talented co-host. Let the good people know who you are.
What's up, good people? It's the one, the only Touchdown Tomboy. I'm up in this building. Yes.
No doubt. Touchdown Tomboy, you've been giving us some looks these past few weeks, some versatility and whatnot. You know, look.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do.
Absolutely. And this is certainly a magnificent time to be an HBCU attendee or alumni or graduate, because I, of course, crossed at the esteemed Winston-Salem State University, the same university that Chris Paul attends. J.R. Smith, he's playing golf and live tweeting his classwork and coursework at NCA&T. We got Meg Thee Stallion, of course, she just graduated from TSU. LeBron has partnered with FAMU. He's working on clothing and apparel with them. Michael Strahan also graduated from an HBCU. He just went to space, and you know all the checks that he's getting from hosting and football and things like that. And then, of course, JSU coach Deion Sanders getting a #1 recruit, Travis Hunter, to decommit from, ironically, Sanders' alma mater, Florida State, and getting him to join at JSU. And of course, this has Dabo Swinney up in a frenzy. But Touchdown Tomboy, what is the significance of this power move by Deion and its impact to HBCUs?
Oh man, when I first saw this, I just got so excited because I was like, yo, Deion, put the HBCUs on the map, because for so many years, and if we date back, there have been tons of players, before, desegregation, there were tons of players who went to HBCUs who ended up playing professional football, and they ended up having great careers, and when I like to say when football was just really, I guess, coming into its own, and it was evolving. And so you had people like Walter Payton and Jerry Rice and people like that who gone on to be great Hall of Famers that came from HBCUs. And so, when you fast forward to today's society and you're looking at it, I feel like HBCUs don't get enough representation when majority of the people in the NFL are Black Americans. So it's like, I feel like, with that being said, I think that has a lot to do with finances. I think that has a lot to do with sponsorships and really just notoriety and being able to get that exposure. And so I think that there are a lot of elite players that are overlooked in Division II schools that could potentially run in the NFL, if they have that extra leg up, or they get that notoriety or that sport or that sponsorship that they need to help take them to the next level. And so for me, the fact that Jackson State and Deion Sanders has gone to Jackson State, and he's gotten this recruit to say, hey, HBCUs, we offer just as much as Division I schools do too. And not only that, we can teach them culture, we can teach them heritage, we can show them how to, be fine Black men, and that they don't, because I don't care what anybody says. And, this is no knock on other institutions. There are some things that I feel like that African Americans learn at HBCUs, that we learn about ourselves and our heritage, that helps us to represent ourselves better as a culture when we move forward. And so the stability that this young man will receive just by going to an HBCU is really going to propel him in the future as a Black man. And it'll help him to be more aware of who he is, so that when he gets to that next level, he'll be able to acknowledge and be able to basically represent who we are as a people in a, I like to say, in a well-mannered fashion. And so I think we need to see more of that. And I think that we're at the beginning of that. We're going to start seeing it. And as of today, from what I've seen, they've had 22 commits that are in the transfer portal that are going to JSU. And Tom Brady endorsed a player today that is another player that is going to JSU, and he's also a top recruit. And so I just saw another player that is transferring from UCLA that is going to JSU. So, you know, this is just, I mean, actually he's going to Grambling State, you know, where Hugh, what's his name?
Hugh Jackson,
Yeah, Hugh Jackson is now the coach there. And so, you know, and then you got Eddie George is at Tennessee State. So, you know, the thing is like now this is becoming a thing. And I think this is great. You know, I think we help people build the culture. And I think people get to see how proud of our heritage we are. I think it just gives them a foundation like no other. And I think it just really helps us to be stronger as a community going forward when we get to come from our own base. And I mean, like I said, that's no knock on anybody else. That's just to me what I've seen it do from just the majority of the people that I've seen come from HBCUs. And so I think this is a great day. I think that it should be happening more because they do need more exposure. They do need more finances at these Division II schools, and they should be getting the same pay as some of these other head coaches are getting that they're not getting. And furthermore, I think that boo-hoo, sorry for you, Florida State, because you guys, when Deion wanted that job, he wasn't good enough. Y'all went and picked somebody else, and now you're mad because he ain't winning. And now Deion Sanders, y'all thought was a joke, and you picked out real quick. He had way more pull than you thought.
Absolutely.
So now the joke's on you, Florida State. You'll continue to be bad for a few more years while Deion Sanders is out there winning. Your loss, don't complain about it now.
Right, you had your chance, you blew it. Yeah, a 4-7 record, I think, is where they stand. And yeah, you know what, karma. That's how I completely feel about it. So you had your chance, you blew it. Definitely a great interpretation and breakdown there. And just to kind of piggyback and add on to what you were saying, I mean, we're looking at also an HBCU bowl coming up that is a sellout. Like that's not happening. That's the Deion effect as well. I mean, Deion has even had an Instagram model, Brittany Renner, come talk to these students to try to help them avoid people like her. Of course, a lot of people complained about that was kind of unorthodox in that approach, but it's never been done before. And I honestly think that that's going to be more helpful than a lot of people see initially. And so this is a great way that Deion's creating. I mean, there was a guy that went live, that was on social media that went viral rather. Deion challenged him to, like, instead of going to the Ole Miss games or any other football game in Ole Miss, come to Jackson State's, I think it was like their final game right before they had qualified for the bowl. And he talked about his experiences. He had a blast. He was like, he's not going back. I can't remember the young man's name, but again, this is the trend that Deion is creating. And like you said, of course, Eddie Robinson, the late great Eddie Robinson, planted the seeds at Grambling. The torch has now been passed to Hugh Jackson. We'll see how it goes. Like you said, Eddie George, another Hall of Famer. So this is a great time. And also, this is stuff that should have been happening long time ago. This should not be new. This should not be a surprise. It's finally coming to light, finally coming to fruition, long overdue. And you're absolutely right on the commentary that you gave. So thank you as well. Once again, Touchdown Tomboy. Lots of great things happening. So shout outs to all the HBCUs for progress. It's looking great, no doubt. So this week we saw the Washington football team, the Cleveland Browns, and the LA Rams COVID list grow longer than Rapunzel's hair. The Rams, they actually had to close down the facilities. They've entered intensive protocols. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Kareem Hunt having close monitoring, lower body issues, right ankle, foot sprains, and things like that. And it's getting so close to postseason with all this happening. And once again, no New York team in the postseason, no Jets, no Giants. And this is a consecutive trend that we're seeing here with both of those teams, unfortunately. Urban Meyer fired at midnight, nonetheless, like literally in the midnight hour while you were sleeping. This is something that happened with Urban Meyer and on his day off, by the way, kind of like Smokey and Craig and Friday, that scene. Odell and Matt Stafford, we saw them reemerge on a Monday night doing primetime action against the division rival, the Arizona Cardinals, getting that the Packers, with some help from Odell, Matt Stafford and company, of course, they helped send the Rams packing to the #1 spot in the NFC, and we will talk about that later as we continue our December to Remember episodes of WTF2, and we slide down the chimney, headed to the first quarter. Congratulations to Alabama quarterback Bryce Young on winning the Heisman Saturday night. An early Christmas present for him, no doubt. And this is the second year in a row that, of course, a member of the Crimson Tide has won that honor. And the 5th out of the 6th year that a quarterback has done so with winning this prestigious award. Now, he's only a sophomore, so of course he has to come back next year. He can't get any early, can't try to catapult to the NFL earlier with the rules and stuff that is implemented. Of course, he can go into it next year, but we know that he will also need some time to develop in the league. But nonetheless, despite that, we kind of want to take a look at him now because there are some teams that could use him right now and next year. So let's play a little devil's advocate here, and let's say, hypothetically speaking, what would be the best landing spot for Bryce Young, T-Squared?
Okay. So I thought about this long and hard, actually, and I looked at who the top 5, based upon today's data, who the top 5 or 6 teams would be in the top 5 if they got a draft. That would be Detroit, the Texans, the Jags, the Jets, the Giants, and the Panthers would be 6. Now, out of those teams, I decided to not look at the Jags or the Jets because I actually felt like they had number one, they just drafted quarterbacks, and I didn't feel like those quarterbacks they're not bad quarterbacks. So they just need to be coached correctly. And they're both in their first year, so it's not too late to turn them around. So I didn't look at them. And then with the Giants are currently looking, I don't know if you heard about this in the rumor mill, but Russell Wilson is willing to waive his clause so that he could go to the Giants possibly. So I said, well, I'm not going to look at them. And then I said, with the Carolina Panthers, we don't need to draft a quarterback until we fix our O-line. So that's a no-go for me. So the only 2 teams that left for me was Detroit and the Texans. Now, in times past, I know that nobody would ever scream Detroit. Okay. I know nobody would ever, after all that has happened to Jim Caldwell and, and Megatron and how they just cannot get it together. Listen, I don't know if I got this love affair for Dan Campbell and I just feel his heart, but I just feel like Dan Campbell is a really solid coach who really wants to win. And I want to see Dan Campbell win. Okay. And I feel like when I look at their defense, the defense is good. You know what I'm saying? Like they have a pretty promising defense. They got good pieces. The running game is decent. They've been developing their offensive line. If you remember, they took Penei Sewell first overall last year. So they've been developing their line so they can protect Bryce Young if he comes up there. The only thing that they're missing is a legit quarterback and a couple receivers. So if I was Bryce, I think that Detroit has not had a really good quarterback in a while. Matt Stafford was banged up. They haven't had a really good quarterback in a while. That team is young. That team is fresh. That's a team you could grow with because they basically have started over. I like Dan Campbell's energy. I think you could really succeed there. And maybe this is just me being high on Dan Campbell and what he's doing there. And I feel his heart and his energy. But I think that Bryce Young, you could do well in Detroit with Dan Campbell.
Wow, you know what? Honestly, I'm sipping on that Kool-Aid too because I had 2 teams, and I'm really like, yeah, definitely. I had 2 teams, and I was thinking Detroit as well. Because honestly, I don't think Goff will be there, but I also don't think Detroit will dive in head first to go after a quarterback this year. I'm not really that fond or too keen on the quarterback class coming out this year either. Because if you look at Jared Goff's record, as a starter, 0-7 with Jeff Fisher as the coach. And what is this? 1-11-1? Yeah, 1-11-1, I believe, is his record with Dan Campbell. So I think you have to maybe try to go after a free agent quarterback, maybe just like a quick little 1-year deal or whatever, but you got to get rid of Goff. And I think also with that 1 year in signing Goff, that allows you some time to kind of better prepare for Bryce Young, get you a couple more pieces, make yourself a little bit more appealing to Bryce Young for him to be a little bit excited about coming to Detroit. I mean, because the last thing you really don't want a player to, you don't want an Eli situation where Eli initially got drafted by the San Diego Chargers when they were in San Diego, and he hurried up and pitched the fit and pouted like, nope, I don't want to go there. They pulled the plug, and there you have Phillip Rivers going to the Chargers, and Eli came to the Giants, and the rest is history. So you don't want that type of situation. So I think that Detroit would take this year. We've seen them lose close games. Their record does not match their energy. The record does not match their talent or skill level. Unfortunately, people will look at that as an indictment on what Detroit can and can't do, but it's an unfair assessment. So yeah, I think that Detroit would take 1 year to kind of polish themselves up, put some lipstick on that pig, for lack of a better metaphor. But yeah, I think that they will take a year to kind of help themselves, polish themselves up, look a little bit better and more appealing. But I definitely think Bryce Young will be a good look for them too. I think this year they'll probably go after fellow Heisman candidate Hutchinson from Michigan, the defensive end. That'll help as well. He's the homeboy. He's right there from Michigan. He's played ball in Michigan as well. Adding him, that if I was Bryce Young, that would make me want to go too. Like, hey, that defense, that aggressive DN, he was a finalist as well for the Heisman. I like that for our defense. He's going to help have me out there on the field. He's going to help create turnovers. That would make me really, really want to go as well. And then also, it's time for Detroit to have that type of ring the alarm type. Like, they need something big and booming. And if they could go back to back and have a Heisman candidate finalist, and then next year go get a Heisman winner back to back in 2 years, honestly, that could be a great turnaround for Detroit. Because Aaron Rodgers probably ain't gonna be in that division next year, so it's gonna become wide open. Justin Fields is another young quarterback in that division. He's gonna still be developing. So I think we might see a tide current change coming for Detroit as well. Now, the other team that I was looking at was maybe Cleveland, only due to the fact that, Baker Mayfield with the injuries, we've seen Baker Mayfield rustle some feathers there. People's daddies getting involved. I would give, obviously, because we know that Young cannot come out next year, I would give Mayfield 1 more year post Odell. Let's see if this really was your fault. Let's see how you do a full year without Odell. And we're going to find out who was really the pariah in all this. So I would kind of monitor and put that on a leash with Odell, with Baker, see how that goes. And if it doesn't go so well, then I would honestly, if I was Cleveland, I would honestly possibly look at Young as a future quarterback beyond Baker Mayfield. They get 1 more year with him. All right. So loading ourselves back onto the sleigh to hit the second quarter. Now, speaking of Cleveland, Baltimore just lost to Cleveland this weekend. San Fran beat Cincy on the road with a walk-off touchdown in overtime. Pittsburgh lost an almost come from behind game. That was that was the Thursday before, but that was still within that same week. And then, that's right. That's right. Two of the teams within the division played each other. So yeah, it was just the 3 games. So now this puts each team in that division with 5 and 6 losses. Very, very close race there. Of course, Baltimore, the division leader, with the 5 losses. But honestly, none of these teams are out for winning the division. None of them are out for winning a wild card position either. So touchdown tomboy, with the quarterback issues in this muddled division, the upcoming schedules, the overlapping records, who do you think will win the AFC North?
So here's the thing. So I had to do a little digging on this one, because I was like, well, let me see all the numbers, how this goes. So the best way to determine who would basically win this division is I went and looked at the ease of schedule. So based upon the ease of schedule, in my personal opinion, I feel like the Bengals have the best opportunity to win. Because if you're looking at what the Bengals have the Broncos, the Ravens, which they already have a hobbled quarterback and a hobbled everything else on the Ravens team, Kansas City, and the Browns, right? So now when I look at that, I'm thinking they're either going to go 3-1 or 2-2. If they go 3-1 or 2-2, worst case scenario, that puts them at 9-8, right? Now, the other team that I was looking at to possibly even be like that could possibly be the Ravens, depending on injury. And the reason why I say that is because even though the Ravens got a tough schedule, it's really going to be dependent on Lamar. But I really only see them winning one game, but they're already at 8 games.
Right.
So even if they just won one game, they'd still be 9-7. The problem is that the Bengals won their head-to-head.
Right.
So that would still put the Bengals on top. The only way this doesn't work out in the Bengals' favor is if the Browns somehow magically finds a way to win 2 more games out of this, which I see that hard to do because they got to play Green Bay, Pitt, Cincinnati, and they got to play the Raiders. So to me, I still feel like the Bengals are in the driver's seat because the Bengals get to control the narrative. So if the Bengals, all they got to do is win, at least against the Browns, then that puts them in the driver's seat, in my opinion. And then to me, I feel like y'all had the hardest schedule out of everybody. So I just was like, at best, I see y'all going 1-3.
Me too.
So, I mean, because I feel like even with y'all division games, even if y'all won one of y'all would only win one of the division games. But I didn't really see y'all beating the Titans, and I didn't see you beating Kansas City. And I said you'll probably win one of the other between the Browns and the Ravens. So that puts you at 1-3. That just knocks you out. So to me, the people that are the most promising to win is probably going to be the Cincinnati Bengals.
Gotcha. Now, of course, me being a Steelers fan, my heart, I always wanted to be my team. I mean, who wouldn't be like that? But I do have way more realistic bones in my body than that. Every single team in this division, everybody's schedule, as you alluded to, it's a gauntlet. Like, I'd rather this been the first 4 games for all of us, honestly, than the last 4, especially with the way the division is so muddled right now. We're all at 6 losses or 5. The other 3 teams are at 6 losses. And Baltimore has 5 losses. But my Steelers play, as you alluded to, the Titans. And then the Chiefs game is at the Chiefs. Oh, by the way, the Chiefs are on a 6-game winning streak right now. And they're trying to get a number 1 spot in the AFC and get that home field in that bye week. Then we play at the Ravens as well. And we have a Monday night game against Cleveland. I don't know what it is about us in Monday night games, but it's always suspect. I.e. the Chicago game that we should have lost, but we got some help, some generosity from the referees. So my schedule does scare me. I'm seeing where we could honestly on paper go 0-4, or like you said, 1-3, 2-2 at the most. But I definitely don't see undefeated or above 500. Everybody that we play our last 4 games is 500 or above and or division leaders. That is so stout. Now the Browns, with them playing the Raiders, like, this is a Raiders team who started strong. Like, they're on the weak end of this. So I give the Browns a tilt of my hat to that. They do go to the Packers. That could be dangerous. They play the Chiefs, and as you alluded to, and let's see, and they play my Steelers. Again, that Monday night game. Now, like you said, the Bengals, they do play at Denver. The thing, you can never rule out Denver because of their altitude. Like, Mother Nature is just always a factor there. And I'll get into another reason why I don't know about Cincinnati with Denver, but that'll come when we actually talk about the games. But I do like their schedule best out of everybody. The Ravens, with them playing the Packers, the Bengals, they also play the Rams.
Yeah,
that's a tough game too. Yeah. So I don't know. I'd be surprised if any of these teams in my division finish 2-2, or I'm looking at 1-3 for a lot of them. Somebody might be 3-1. If it is anybody, I think it'll be Cincinnati as well. But these games just scream 2-2, 1-3 to me. Of course, they play each other as well. So somebody's going to obviously have to win that. Or they could do like my boys and have that pesky tie. I would love for somebody to have a tie with us so that we're not by ourselves. But yeah, to be honest, I really think that my boys have the toughest path down the stretch. We're having to do with an ancient quarterback, a not reliable, trustworthy backup. The O-line is depleted. I definitely don't see it with my boys. Now, using my heart a little bit more, I'm rooting for the Bengals in addition to their schedule, because I'm thinking about last year. All 3 of us went to the playoffs. Baltimore went, Cleveland went, and so did my Steelers. All 3 of us went to the playoffs except Cincinnati. Now, of course, Burrow went out, so we don't know what could have happened. But us being in the playoffs, us three, and leaving Cincinnati to not play in any of our reindeer games, it kind of reminds me of that SpongeBob meme where like Squidward is looking down out the window and like Patrick and SpongeBob, they're down there cheering and holding up their hands and laughing. Like Cincinnati was them looking out the window, and that's us down there having the time of our lives. But I wouldn't mind if the roles reversed this year. The other reason why I'm really rooting for Cincinnati, I'm always a fan of fresh new teams. I don't like a lot of like repeat and all of that, even if it is my team. I love the newness. I love the freshness. I love the unpredictable part of, oh, they weren't there last year, but they're there this year. I love all of that. I'm a fan of newness. So I would like Cincinnati. It's a long time coming. It's well overdue. I would like to see Cincinnati return to that relevance. You know, we got cheated last year because Joe Burrow got hurt. So we don't know what Cincinnati could have, would have, and should have been. But this year he's healthy. Kind of works out better for them because they got Jamar Chase, somebody, you know, reunited, and it feels so good in my Peaches and Herb voice. So it's nice to see them back together. We know what they can do. I mean, we saw them in college. They got a national championship together in 2019. That wasn't so long ago. So it'd be nice to see them together in the postseason and kind of see, you know, second time around for Burrow. You know, him coming in my Shalimar voice, they're a little old school R&B, but I'm really a big fan of Cincinnati going to the playoffs, winning the division. I love to see it. I think it's kind of set up for them. And plus, you know, last year, Cleveland finally got that playoff win that was long overdue. So they kind of checked off a box. Lamar Jackson, he was 0-2 his first 2 times in the playoffs. He lost his home games. He finally won a playoff game last year. That box is checked off. I mean, Ben's been to 3 Super Bowls. He's got 2 rings, which is obviously more than the rest of those 3 quarterbacks added together. So that box is checked off. Cincinnati has none of these T's crossed. I mean, none of these T's, none of these I's dotted, none of these T's crossed. So it would be nice to really, really see Cincinnati get in there. I am really, really, really rooting for Cincinnati. Yeah, all jokes aside and everything, I really hope Cincinnati wins the AFC North. All right, now Touchdown Tomboy, you gave us such a great rundown of how Deion Sanders has impacted not just college, but potentially the league for the future, as we'll most likely see a lot more recruits getting drafted from the NFL coming from HBCU. So you've already gave such valued information on Deion's impact. So we're going to turn to you once again with the halftime presentation to give us a little bit more knowledge. So what do you have for us this week, T-Squared?
Well, you know, of course, we've been doing a little mini series about the history of the NFL. And last week we stopped with team number 13, which is actually America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. And they were actually birthed in 1960. And they were actually originally going to be called the Steers. But, right, they were going to be called the Dallas Steers. But the owner at the time was like, he was like, yeah, I don't think it's very befitting for us to be basically called a castrated calf. So that's not going to be a good thing. Then they said they were going to go with being the Rangers. But then, as you know, there's a team called the Texas Rangers. Oh, so then they said, well, we're not going to be the Rangers either. And so then he just settled on the Cowboys. And that's kind of how that name came to be. So that was how that took hold. So now, in team number 14, team number 14 actually was the Houston Oilers. You know who that is now. Who is that?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, it's the Texans, but I thought didn't the Oilers move like to Cleveland or something first?
No, you know who the Oilers are, because I knew who the Houston Oilers were when they moved.
I'm sorry, it's Tennessee. I just said it. Yeah, Tennessee, I was like, once I said
right.
it loud, no, I'm tripping.
They Tennessee Titans. So the Houston Oilers are now the Tennessee Titans, because remember when they were the Houston Oilers, wasn't it Warren Moon? Warren Moon was
Warren Moon quarterback. Right. Yeah.
So that was around that time when they ended up moving, 1997, I think, and they became the Titans, and they moved to Tennessee in 1997, and they changed their name to the Titans in 1999. And the owner chose to change the name to the Titans because he said it reflected strength, leadership, and heroic qualities. Now, the cool thing about this is I feel like a lot of the names that they have really is indicative of that team for the most part. You know, it really does say a lot about who that team is, and those names really do kind of match them. And then team number 15 was the New York Titans. Who is that now?
So that's the Jets, because I remember the throwback jersey. Yeah.
Right. So, and then they changed in 1963. And basically, because they had played so close to LaGuardia Airport, they actually decided to basically change their name to the Jets because they were
like jet planes.
Right, they were Jets, right? And originally, funny fact is that originally, before they settled on the Jets, they were gonna be the Boroughs. But the Boroughs, because they were gonna be the New York Boroughs, basically like a borough, like because their boroughs are built up around New York. But the problem is people kept having issues with the translating it, and they basically was translating it to mean jackass in Spanish.
Oh gosh. I mean, that does kind of can apply to that.
Oh, that's how that came to be. So, and then the 16th team, which also was established in 1960, was the Buffalo Bills, who are still named the Buffalo Bills. And of course, their name came from basically paid homage to the Buffalo Bill called Bill Cody, basically, which was the homage to, I guess he was, a Western cowboy of that time. And or he was in that area or something, but that's how they got their name. So it paid homage to him. And then the 17th team was the 1960 was the Boston Patriots. Now, what I will say is that all of these teams that I'm talking about right now, they were actually came to be because of that merger that I had told you about previously with the AFL. Because what was happening is that the AFL was superseding the NFL in terms of getting picks between the drafts and stuff like that. And so what ended up happening is that they just decided in I want to say in 1960, I wrote it down somewhere. In 1960, they officially merged. I wrote it down. They officially merged, I want to say in 1962-ish, and they officially merged and they became the actual all under the NFL. Because you know how you used to hear them say the NFL/AFL, but they officially merged. And all of these teams that I'm naming now, which are 14 through the next 9 of them were recipients of being in the AFL.
Gotcha.
So 14, of course, was Houston Oilers. They were part of the AFL. The Titans were part of the AFL. The Bills were part of the AFL. And team number 17 was the Boston Patriots, which are now the New England Patriots. And they became New England Patriots in 1971. And they're now the New England Patriots because fans voted for them to be called the New England Patriots. And basically, you know, they were named because of all of the patriotic things that were happening in the country, you know, patriot at that time, right? And cool thing is that the writer for the Boston Globe drew their emblem. So the Patriot emblem that they have now, it was a Boston Globe writer who actually drew their emblem.
They ain't never changing it then.
Right. So now number 18 was the LA Chargers. Okay. And then the LA Chargers, they actually came up with the LA Chargers because funny thing is the only connected with the LA Chargers because he liked when people used to say it again, charge. So that's how they came up with the Chargers. The bugle, what they call it. So he used to like that so much, then he said that he wanted them to be the Chargers because that always reminded him of that. So, and then the 19th team was the Dallas Texans. Who is that team now?
Okay, so you already talked about the Cowboys. So I mean, it's got to be Houston Texans now, right?
No, Houston is years later.
That's right. They did, because they were like Team 32. Okay. So it's obviously not the Cowboys. There's that. I mean, Texas has 3 NFL teams, right? No, just 2. What's the team name again, you said?
The Dallas Texans.
But Dallas used to be, I don't know, this one got me stumped.
Yeah, you're not gonna get this one because I didn't even get this one. So the Dallas Texans in 1963 moved to Kansas City and became the Kansas City Chiefs. And they became the Kansas City Chiefs because they changed their name to Kansas City because they moved to Kansas City, Missouri. And they moved to Kansas City because the mayor at that time basically influenced them to basically move. And how they ended up calling them Kansas City, KC, or basically Kansas City Chiefs, was because so it's several stories to this. So the first story is that at that time when they moved to Kansas City, it was a lot of Native Americans there. And so, a Chiefs, of course, it basically are when you think of Chiefs, you think of Native Americans.
Right.
But then the other thing is that one of the mayor at that time, who actually had a big influence in getting them to Kansas City, his nickname was called the Chief. So they think that they say that it came from that or that. So it's multiple stories to it. Which one it is, I don't know. And then of course, the last one is the 20th team for today is, of course, the Oakland Raiders, who moved, of course, to LA in 1987. They're now the Las Vegas Raiders because they moved there in 2020. And get this, a lady actually called them the old senors due to Spanish settlers, right? That was their name, was going to be the old senors. But people said that the contest was rigged and that she cheated to win the contest. And so they just decided, okay, we don't want to deal with all of this controversy. So the owner just changed the name to the Raiders because the Raiders actually means good fighters in Spanish.
Well, I did not, the word Raiders sounds so American. That's a Spanish word?
Supposedly it means good fighters.
Wow, I would have never thought that either. Well, I gotta roll my order next time. Raiders. I gotta
Raiders. Because they wanted to name them the OLC, which it makes sense because if you think about Oakland in that area, it's a lot of, because it's not that far from Mexico. Right. So, and a lot of Spanish people are in that area. So at that time, it would make sense. But yeah, they wanted to be named the old senors. But can you imagine that? The old senors?
No, that's too much to say. I'm glad they changed it to the Raiders.
But yeah, because he really liked that name. But then people said the contest was rigged. And so he decided on the Raiders, which is supposed to mean good fighters. So those are the 20 teams so far. And we'll pick up next week where we dropped off with that. So now we can go on back to quarter 3.
Well, that Dallas one, the Kansas City, completely baffled me. I did not see that one coming at all. Like I said, I knew about the Jets ones, the Titans, because when they wore the throwback uniforms, it had Titan on it. So that one I remembered. And then, like you said, the change of the name to the Jets because they were, LaGuardia. All of that made sense. But that Dallas to Kansas City, yeah, that one really, really threw me for a LaGuardia.
Who would have ever thought that the Kansas City Chiefs were originally in Dallas?
Never knew. Wow, how about that? Good stuff as always, Touchdown Time, boys. So we'll get about 6 more teams again next week with the Christmas edition. I'm looking forward to that. All the knowledge on that. Wow, good trivia stuff too. Picking up here with the third quarter, we got 2 games on Saturday this week, or as you just the El Senores, yeah, taking on the Browns at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, and
the Patriots. Browns.
Right. And then you got the Patriots and the Colts on Saturday night, like about 8:20, 8:30, something like that. So T Squared, what do you think about all of this NFL? I mean, you got games on several nights a week, all day Sunday. You got Monday night, you got Thursday night, which came in recent years, and now on Saturday. So I don't know, maybe X out the Thursday night game, or on Saturday when there's no college football every day of the week. How would you like your NFL programming and scheduling if you had your choice?
To be honest, I watch football. I can watch football every day because I watch some football related every single day, and my husband hates it, right? I love you, honey. So he absolutely hates it, right? So for me, I can watch football Sunday to Sunday, okay? Because I just love football. That's just my thing. Now, however, one thing I don't like though is that sometimes I feel like, especially during this time of year, because the colleges are playing mostly on Saturdays, that it becomes very difficult to see all of the bowl games and the flex games, and you're right here at the holidays, so you got all this stuff going on and you're all over the place. And I don't really like that, the Saturday games of the NFL, although I'm gonna tune in. I don't really like it that much, but so if I had my choice, I would say every day except for Saturday, probably. And no, let me go ahead and say every day except for Friday and Saturday, because I have to give my spouse one day because I do like him a lot and I love him. Okay.
Right. I mean, after all, you did say yes on your proposal. I get it, but I totally agree with you. Listen, for me in my house, it is football today, football tomorrow, football forever. You know, Luther Vandross actually wrote a song, Big Luther, by the way, not Little Luther, but yeah, Big Luther actually wrote a song that specifically defines how I feel about football, and it's never too much, never too much. I mean, that's why I appreciate like seriously, that's why I appreciate like an NFL network, because football never goes to sleep there. Football never dies. There's always some type of coverage, draft, trade, Columbine. So I'm all for that. But I love
not Columbine. You mean Combine?
Girl, what did I say? Columbine. Oh my God, I did, and kept going like that was right. I'm thinking about the shootouts. Lord have mercy. Yeah, the combines. Like, absolutely. I don't see that.
Oh, that's a good blooper.
Big fan of football, because like honestly, even though the weather changes in the spring, I get really depressed about the sports beyond February. Like after the Super Bowl, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like all sports, but thank God for like sunshine and longer sunlight and stuff come then, because that's my coping mechanism, because I don't have football. But I do go like in a little bit of a depression when football ends in February. But yeah, it's like I probably think the only thing I would change, because see, I got a little spoiled last year, and I hate the circumstance it was involving with COVID, and they had to do some rescheduling. But I remember last year, my boys played on a Tuesday night too. So I was in pigskin heaven. It was my boys, and it was on a Tuesday. And
I remember that because of the whole thing with the COVID, and they had to reschedule the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Night game. And so then we had Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and I love that. Probably the only thing though that I would change, like honestly, I know there's sitcoms on, I know there's other sports game shows and mystery shows and all of that and streaming, but I'm cool with football every single day of the week except maybe Wednesday, because that way it's like a bye day in the middle of the week. So you got your football Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, like we've had before last year the one time, and then we already got Thursday night games. I mean, there is other games on Friday, but I would just want like no games on, maybe just on Wednesday, because it's the middle of the week. And of course, if you had a game any of those other days, if you had a game on Monday or Tuesday, obviously you wouldn't play on Thursday, or you wouldn't play on Saturday to give your body a chance a little bit more to heal. But that's honestly the programming I would like. Probably the only thing I would change, like when the season comes around on Monday nights, we get a double header. And I love that. But what I really love is football comes on earlier. Like there's a game that comes on at 7 or 7:15. I wish the Monday night games were really always like that.
That would be good.
Yeah, that would be cool. And I understand like the West Coast time zone difference, but it would be like 4:30 over there, not like noon or morning. So I really wish that the Monday night games came on a little bit earlier. That will probably be one of the only things that I change. And I know you're not a fan of the Saturday games, which makes sense, because like you said, everybody's kind of out and about and celebrating and get ready for holidays. But I like that as the the contrast since there are not any bowl games. So we still do have some football on to kind of carry us through until the bowl games. I mean, it's not every Saturday too, so that probably would become overkill after a while. But yeah, that will probably be the only one or two changes I make. And also with the Thursday night games, like the Thursday night games, I stopped watching them for a little bit, not because it was on Thursday night, but some of those Thursday night games, they got on whack. But the one good thing, like we had a really good Thursday night game earlier this month, the Minnesota and Pittsburgh game, that got better in the second half. And so like the game that comes on this week for Thursday is the Chargers and Chiefs. And that's a divisional game. So that's probably the other thing I would change about Thursday games, like make all of them divisional games so that there's some type of like a competition factor, like we're going for the division lead or we're trying to knock them out of the playoffs, not win the division title. Like I would kind of make a little bit more significance around it on Thursday night games to kind of reel people in. So yeah, those would probably be the main changes that I would make if I had my way with the scheduling on NFL. All right, so heading back to the North Pole here with the fourth quarter, another change with some of the NFL scheduling is the addition of a playoff team, now being 7, getting in the playoffs instead of 6 that we traditionally known. The adjustment, of course, started last season during COVID, but I don't think people really paid as much of attention because we were all like in a depressed state of mind. Fans couldn't go to the games, but we actually, it's okay because we got to see how it went last year. So now we can kind of evaluate it a little bit more. So this adjustment also means that now there's only room for one number 1 seed in each conference respectively. And so that one team is the only one that gets the bye week, where it used to be number 1 and number 2. So now that coveted number 1 spot in the ludicrous voice, that becomes very, very, a lot more important, a lot more significant to have that number 1 spot. Because if you're a 2 seed now, you have to play a game. Of course, you get to host the game, but you don't get that bye week anymore. And your home field is jeopardized once again as well a week earlier because you might lose it that particular game and because you don't have that bye week. But nonetheless, touchdown tomboy, we're heading into the playoffs. And it's a lot more of a more competitive race in the NFC. So at the end of the day, when we go to the playoffs, the NFC will go through the current spot, Green Bay, Arizona, Tampa, Dallas, or a curveball here based off of Monday night's game, perhaps LA. Who you like holding down the NFC number 1 spot?
Here's the thing. So here's the thing. So 2 teams, well, Arizona, I feel like they're gonna have the toughest run out of everybody because I'm just looking at their schedule down the and then they just lost Hopkins for some games now, and I think that's just gonna be tough sledding for them. And then I'm looking at Dallas, and I'm not really considering them because they are already a game back anyway. And then they have divisional games coming up. Now, when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, based on scheduling, I feel like Green Bay has the ease of schedule simply because I'm looking at Green Bay's defense, and then I'm looking at who Green Bay is playing. Green Bay plays the Ravens, the Browns, the Vikings, the Lions. They're not going to lose to the Vikings again. That's not going to happen. They're not going to lose to the Lions. The Ravens are hobbled, and they play them coming up first. And then the Browns, you know what's going on with the Browns. They got a lot of drama going on. And I don't see them losing to them either. So, I mean, the only team that I could potentially see giving them a problem would be the Ravens. But like I said, Lamar's injured. They have a lot of injuries right now. So I can't even say that's a real threat. So to me, going down the stretch, I would say that I feel like they have the biggest threat. Now, the reason why I won't say Tampa is because number 1 is that no matter how you put it, somehow Tampa always has some type of, for some reason, the Saints are always some type of kryptonite to Tampa. Either they play them really close or some, I don't care what's going on with Tampa, whether they don't have the top, because remember in the first game, Jameis got injured and they still won that game.
Still won the game, yeah.
They caused Tom Brady through 3 turnovers that game, okay? And as bad as the Panthers are right now, I'm not necessarily sure. They don't have nothing else to play for. And because they're so bad, that's because the Panthers are so bad right now. That'll be one of them games they just mess up and win.
Yeah.
That's just usually how it works.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's what I think. Based upon what I'm seeing, I'm gonna pick Green Bay.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel so smart when I agree with you. Thank you. It's like if me and you said the same time, I was like, oh, Shalika said it too, yay. But yeah, I was thinking Green Bay as well. I think it stays in Green Bay. Arrogant Rodgers or Karen Rodgers or Aaron Rodgers, he seems to be on this kind of very dramatic, petty revenge tour. The chip on his shoulder, especially after he lost the NFC Championship game to Tampa last year, I think that still resonates in the front of his mind. Like, that's not nothing he has short-term memory about. I really think that, he wakes up in the middle of the night and thinks about that game or F. Tom Brady or whatever. I really honestly do, because that was for them. Now, I know Rodgers, of course, has some very shaky history in those NFC Championship games. He's been very responsible for losing a lot of them. But I also think, like, Aaron Rodgers, again, on this tour, we saw what Jordan Love did when he was out for COVID against Kansas City. And I think Aaron Rodgers is very much like, see, I told you so. I'm proving to you that you need me. So I think he wants to kind of get this in and kind of avenge what happened last year. I don't think he'll say it or tell anybody, but I really think that that's his agenda right now. And plus, the personnel got a little bit better, especially on defense.
Oh yeah.
And he got Randall Cobb back in this past offseason. Him and Randall Cobb are reunited. I don't know. I don't think it'll leave either. And kind of just elaborating on some of the other, like with the reason why I don't think some of the other teams, and like you said, also with the schedule, those are all very, very winnable games for Green Bay. They could very much finish 4-0. In that. Now, like you said too, the Baltimore game was probably the one I was penciling in as the most threatening game too, because they're going to Baltimore, and M&T Bank Stadium is a hard place to play at.
It is.
It really is, and especially I don't know if it's because it's near the ocean and that Ferris wheel. I don't know. Like the Ferris wheel is haunting right there beside the stadium. I don't know, but it's really a tough place to play, and especially if Baltimore pulls out those all-black uniforms. Like it can be very intimidating and scary. But again, they're not 100%. The secondary is completely in shambles, and I really think there's no Humphrey, there's no Marcus Peters. I really think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a field day in that secondary. I know Baltimore is getting some help back, Sammy Watkins, Nick Boyle, but who gonna throw the ball to him with this hurt stomach and this toe up stomach? And I don't trust Lamar Jackson right now. It's not a knock on Lamar, just because he's injured. So I don't know how much significance that'll weigh. Unless Justin Tucker, you get it at the 40, you're good. But he gonna have to kick field goals all day long because Green Bay puts up touchdowns. I don't like it. Don't get me wrong, Green Bay can still lose this game. I just don't like it for Baltimore with all of those circumstances. So yeah, the Bucks, they could go undefeated against the Jets, obviously, and they could go, and then they got 2 against the Panthers, and they play the Saints. But like you said, like the Panthers game and the Saints game, those are harrowing. Like, they're not definite. The Jets I'm most confident in, but those 2 games are that you never know. I don't think that they'll sweep Carolina. I think they'll at least split. I don't know if it'll be Tampa plays really, really well at home. So I think Carolina might sneak that one in Charlotte, of course, the day after Christmas. It'd be like a Merry Christmas, happy belated Christmas. And plus it's Carolina's last home game. They might want to end it on like, hey, we beat the Super Bowl champs last home game of the season. That's kind of inspiring. You want to end on that note, especially with a lot of people playing for their jobs, kind of auditioning for their positions next year. So yeah, I don't think Tampa will get both of those games in. As for Dallas, they need help from Tampa because remember, week 1, it was a very close game, and Dallas could have easily won that. They had some kicker issues, but they not only do they need Tampa to lose, but they need Tampa to lose twice because the tiebreaker's in their favor because Dallas is a whole nother game behind them too. I don't think they get that fortunate. I don't think Tampa will be that gracious in relinquishing that to them. So yeah, I definitely don't see Dallas. Either Arizona, of course, they had the lead. They lost it Monday. Again, like you said, they're doing all this now from now without DeAndre Hopkins. I don't like it. I don't. Arizona's not the same team that they were those first 7 weeks of the season. And I think everybody's probably watching Green Bay film against them now when they lost to Green Bay, or also maybe when they lost to LA. they're a beatable team. And again, they lost a very key integral part of their offense with Hopkins. So I definitely don't like them to get back to that number one spot and need that help from Green Bay. And then LA, I just think they're a little bit too little too late. Yeah, it was nice to see they finally pick up the pieces. Do LA things like we thought that they would do with that roster. But those first three games that they lost with Von Miller and Odell joining the team, that right there really, really set them back. And I think it's a little bit too little too late. Hey, maybe they can try to be like Tampa, where Tampa last year became the first team to host the Super Bowl and win it. The Super Bowl's in LA this year. Maybe they can climb their way back into that. Maybe they can go after that record, after that feat. But in order for them to do so, I think they're going to have to do it on the road, at least one of those games, because I don't see them getting home field either in the NFC. Now, before we jump into our overtime segment here with our weekly picks, we mentioned earlier in the intro segment about Urban Dumpster Fire Meyer getting fired on his day off. Yeah, like most of us were sleeping when this happened, but yeah, we woke up to the news about Urban Meyer getting fired. Earlier this season, the scandal with the girl at the bar, and then now allegedly he kicked the kicker out of all people. Like, if that kicker would have retaliated, this is the one position, as much as he's been kicking balls, this is not the player that you want to kick. You might want to kick the water boy, but you don't want to kick the kicker. So yeah, and then of course it's been said that he called his assistants dumb and capable, all kinds of things like that. So a lot of drama surrounding this Urban Meyer early dismissal. Didn't even make it through the whole season, which I'm really surprised and disappointed. But nonetheless, here we are. T-Square, what direction do you think Jacksonville should look going forward? A defensive coach, offensive coach, never a college coach again. What do you think Khan and company should do?
I don't think they should look for another college coach. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when I look at Jacksonville got some hope. Because if you look at Jacksonville, people said that they had some anomalies this year, but they beat some pretty good teams this year. Like the wins that they had were against formidable teams. One being Buffalo, and then the other one was, who did they win? Who was the other game they won?
They went to London and do it. Did they beat Atlanta in London? Didn't they go to London to have to do that?
I don't remember.
Maybe
but like they didn't beat no trash teams that had the same record as they had. So I think that the capability is there, the ability is there. I just think that they need to be coached by somebody who got some organization about themselves. Right. And I also believe that part of it was that Urban Meyer didn't really want to be there anyway. Mm-hmm. So I think that you got a stud in Trevor Lawrence if you can protect him. I think that he has a lot of promise. He really does. I think it's about being able to protect them and getting a coach that can really build like he needs to build down there. And for me, I think if they start there and not go back to college, because I think that I'm starting to have PTSD with these college coaches, because we got a college coach and he don't know what he got going on. Like I thought I was with him, but then I was like, yeah, no, he don't know. He don't have no idea. So I'm like, no, I don't think this is working. No, it ain't translating. Okay, it just ain't seem to translate. I think very few of them can migrate over and pick up the pieces, but most of them not. And I just think that they just need to go with a professional coach. I think that it'll be good to see somebody, honestly, an offensive-minded coach with a strong defensive coordinator. So maybe a Byron Leftwich and a Dan Quinn type combination or something like that, So I mean, I could see something like that, but it just really depends. Jacksonville, honestly, that franchise is not known for hiring well. Mr. Khan, for whatever reason, he doesn't hire well. Like I just think about when he went and hired, what's his name, Doug Marrone, and then he brought in Tim Coughlin, and I'm like, what is he doing? And that was right after the year that they had went to the AFC Championship, and they basically dismantled that whole team. Yeah, they did. Like, what are y'all doing? So I mean, I don't know. Yeah, that's what I think they should do. But I think they'll do it? No.
Well, maybe they should listen to you because, as I've said time and time again, honestly, you should be running FEMA. So maybe they can like make you a consultant or appoint you or something like that. Because this is the year of the woman. Like, we have the capabilities and stuff too. So yeah, maybe it's time for a culture shock, a new change. Because yeah, obviously, Khan, he just got a lot of money, but he doesn't really know how to manage it when it comes to spending money on those moves and those
You know
picks
what
and
I
things.
can't wait for?
What's that?
Is to see the first woman GM, because it's gonna come.
Yeah, we should definitely see that, especially in our lifetime and the way things are going. I mean, hey, maybe it could be one of us or a commissioner or something. Who knows? Yeah, time will tell. But we got to be on board somehow. We got to be involved somehow, definitely. So yeah, well, let's show off our skills even more with our week 15 picks. The Thursday night game, again, a divisional game, huge, colossal game. Kansas City at the LA Chargers. Chiefs on a 6-game winning streak. Chargers on a 2-game winning streak. Who do you like, touchdown time boy?
Kansas City going to the Chargers. I just think that the Chargers have found their moxie, and I think that's going to be hard to knock down.
I'm scared for the Chargers because they've lost a lot of home games.
Not the Chargers. I mean, the Chiefs have found their moxie.
Oh, you want for the Chiefs on the road? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm scared for the Chargers because they've lost a lot of home games, and they almost lost at home to Pittsburgh. They almost lost at home to Dallas as well. They do not protect their own house. Now, hopefully, maybe some of the magical beams that maybe LA sprinkled some when they came back from beating Arizona the other night. I don't know. But this is a tough one. But if you look at it, the Chargers are right now a 5th seed in the playoffs. So that's close to the bottom. They still have a chance at the division. But honestly, to put this in perspective, this is a must-win game for them because two spots down, or 3 spots down, you're definitely out. So, and you're barely clinging on to that spot. So I look at this as a must-win game for them. If they do beat the Chiefs, they're probably going to see them again in the postseason. So it's kind of like, do you want to beat them now or do you want to beat them later when it's more significant? So you kind of pick your poison. I'm rooting for the Chargers only because this game is so significant and what they could do for them in the divisional race and what it could do for them to even hold a playoff spot. So I'm looking at this as a must win for the Chargers. On paper, talent wise, I'm definitely looking at the Chiefs, but the Chargers have to win this game tonight.
Yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs. I misspoke, but I think the Chiefs just done found their moxie. Yeah. I think
so too. I really do. They picked it up and found it at the right time as well, because it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Absolutely. So those Saturday games that we were talking about in the third quarter, Vegas at Cleveland, who you like?
Yeah, Cleveland. Vegas has just been having a lot of issues. Cleveland has been having a lot of issues. Honestly, I think it's whoever's having less issues that day.
On that Saturday, we put up a tally sheet and check off the quantity of issues. And whoever has less issues will win the game. I think that's a fair assessment. Of course, for divisional purposes, I need Cleveland to lose. They probably won't, only because the Raiders are just so. What is it? The
El Senors.
Okay. So maybe they need to transfer to that name on Saturday. Maybe that might make stuff a little bit different for them. I don't know. It's going to take something, but the El Raiders are struggling right now. A lot of dysfunction going on. Cleveland on paper will probably win, but again, for divisional purposes, I'm definitely rooting for the Raiders. Primetime game, New England at Indy. Of course, this isn't the same New England at Indy where we saw Brady versus Manning. Those days are long gone, but there's still some playoff implications here. There's still some New England's on this nice winning streak. The Colts have been surprising people. So I don't know. There's still a little bit of a razzle dazzle with this game here. Touchdown time boy, who you like?
Here's the thing. This is actually a really tough game to pick for. And the reason being is because if you look at how Bill played Buffalo week before last, he only let old boy throw 3 times. And he claims it was because of the weather, but I think it was some lack of trust in there somewhere too. He ain't said, but I think it was some lack of trust in there. And their run game has been spectacular. So why would you make him throw and you can run all over the place? But here's the problem. The issue is that I'm not convinced that one of their backs got hurt. And I'm not convinced that they can have that same two-way punch. However, I do believe that Bill Belichick, he can design defensively how to slow the running game down. But the Colts have been able to run well themselves. So, I mean, because Jonathan Taylor been on the tear himself this year.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's going to come down to which quarterback can make less mistakes. That's really what it's going to come down to. And honestly, I can't really pick either one of these because I can't say, because what I see is Mac Jones, when he plays tough defenses, he doesn't do as well. And Carson, Carson's gonna be Carson.
Right.
So I mean, I can't really, I'm gonna say I think I'm gonna pick the Colts because the Colts are at home.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pick the Colts because the Colts are at home.
Yeah, one thing about Bill Belichick is he will take away your best player. He makes everybody else beat you, and somehow he just has this defensive guru, this way of taking your best player out of the game. Now, I don't think Jonathan Taylor will be stopped completely, but I think he will be contained. Now, Indy, don't get cute if they start throwing 8 in the box or whatever and try to force Carson Wentz to beat. Don't get cute and abandon the run. Don't get scared, because that's usually what Belichick gets you too. He takes you out of your game. Do not fall into that trap. Keep running the ball 30, 35 times. It don't matter. I don't care if you get 1 or 2 yards per carry. It don't matter. Do not abandon that run whatsoever, because that's how Belichick's going to get you. You keep running the ball consistently, regardless. Something's going to happen. You're going to get a big run. You're going to get an 88-yard run after all those 1 or 2 yards. Don't forbid the run. You do that, you win. Otherwise, if you succumb to that pressure, you run the ball 15 or 20 times. When you get frustrated and you take Jonathan out and sub or whatever, you force Carson Wentz to throw the ball 40 and 50 times, you're going to lose. So It depends on which game plan you go with on that. And depending on that, that's going to be the stat line.
That's true.
How many times Carson runs the ball versus how many times Jonathan Taylor runs it. So pick whichever one you go with. That's going to be the determining factor on who wins the game. The strategy there. All right, so the Sunday games, your Carolina Panthers face your former defensive coordinator, Sean McDermott, traveling to Buffalo. Who you like?
Here's the thing. Everybody thinks that this game is going to be a blowout, but I just really don't feel that way. I don't feel that way. I think that Josh Allen is way more vulnerable than they're saying. And I think that if they put Stephon Gilmore on Stephon Diggs, and they take out their best player, we could possibly see a real game.
I think so too, because even though Sean McDermott is familiar with Carolina's also familiar with Sean McDermott. Like they've had him around too. They kind of know what he's going to do. They're kind of able to be like their own scouts on this game as well. I don't like the weather though. December, Buffalo, Mother Nature always, when picking these games, Mother Nature always plays a part for me, just regardless. That doesn't mean a team can't beat them just because of the elements. But you always, look at the Monday night game in Buffalo when New England, like you said, there's probably some trust issues too, but it was really hard to throw the ball a lot. I mean, the kickers were missing field goals and stuff like that. So
here's the thing. Here's my biggest issue. This is why we no longer need a college coach. Because when things work and then they don't work for two series, he goes away from it. So the thing is that with teams like Buffalo, they actually are pretty decent against the run. Mm-hmm. The problem is that with the Buffalo, if you notice, is that when they play mobile quarterbacks, they can't contain them.
Right.
So you got the most mobile quarterback that history has ever seen outside of Lamar Jackson. And you're not utilizing them correctly, and you're wondering why you're not winning games.
Right.
You're trying to make him sit in the pocket when the boy is like a running missile.
Right. That's how they came back against Tampa last week, because he started running.
So it's like they don't utilize what they have. And it's like, why? What are you doing? And this is why I feel like that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But I feel like the multiple of those games that Carolina lost, they could have won if they had proper coaching.
Gotcha.
But that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day.
we'll definitely get around to talking about that as well. So yeah.
But I think that game could be a lot closer than people think it's going to be. And I do, because you got to remember that Buffalo is struggling with their running game. So then that makes them one-dimensional.
Yeah, one-dimensional, absolutely. Hey, it's going to be interesting. And, if Carolina can get back to that really, really stout defense that we saw at the beginning of the year, that could definitely spell trouble for Allen and that offense. But yeah, we'll definitely see with that reunion game there. Jets in Miami, another AFC East game.
Oh, I'm gonna pick Miami on this one.
Absolutely. I mean, the Jets, 11th season in a row that they're not missing, that they're not making the playoffs. And Miami is on this tear right now. They're quietly won 5 games straight, and they're only a loss behind Buffalo. So Carolina could beat Buffalo, and Miami could beat the Jets. And don't forget, hey, New England could lose too. New England ain't sold up anything either. So with Kansas City rolling, this could be very interesting in the AFC East. Miami could definitely, I know they're paying attention. And this is a really, really winnable game.
I think that Miami and New England plays at the end of this, at the end of the year, right?
Week 18. That's the week 18 game.
And they are 100% committed to that cover 0. So that's going to be a really interesting game.
Is that in New England or Miami?
I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, we'll have to check when it gets closer. But yeah, definitely looking like in Miami to win a 6 straight on that one. Washington at Philly, and another divisional game. Who you like?
Ooh. Oh man. So Washington got their face smacked last week.
Yeah, they got exposed.
And Philly is coming off of a bye, right?
Did Philly have yes, Philly had a bye because they were watching Washington and Cowboys comfortably.
So I think that Philly really wants to make the playoffs, and I think this is Philly's shot to up them.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the fact that Washington got so exposed last week, especially Taylor Heineke, I think Philly will trounce on that. If anything, that's probably the one game I watched film on. Plus, it's in Philly. Philly had an extra week to prepare. It's a divisional game, and you got a chance to get a spot in the playoffs. A lot of circumstantial things with this, and I think that Philly will make sure that they put a mark on it and attempt to ruin Washington's chance and also return to the playoffs. So we'll definitely see. Arizona at Detroit.
You know how some games you just be like, this a trap game? This a trap game.
It is.
And I'm still gonna favor Arizona, but I do believe that this is not gonna be like one of them blowout games.
No, absolutely not. I think this is gonna be like another one of those close games, just like Detroit had with Baltimore, and Justin Tucker, of course, got the kick to win the game as time expired. Detroit almost beat Chicago on Thanksgiving. They tied with Pittsburgh. Like, honestly, the record is a terrible way of kind of trying to decide how bad of a team that Detroit is. Mind you, now Arizona is also coming off of a short week going to Detroit. They just played Monday night, and again, they're traveling without DeAndre Hopkins. I'm about like you, touchdown time boy. This might be like that Tampa and Cowboys game at the beginning of the season, a real close, tight game. I'm rooting for Detroit with my heart. Just I don't quite think they'll get all the way over that hump.
Oh yeah, I don't think so either, but I think it's gonna be close.
Definitely think it's gonna be a close game as well. Dallas at the Giants, the other half of the NFC East playing each other.
Dallas is going to the Giants. You know, the Giants always seem to play Dallas pretty closely, though.
Yeah, they play them twice.
I think it would be fun to see Dallas smack them to see the Giants smack Dallas in the face. Yeah, I think that'll be fun. When they played the last time, did Dallas get smacked?
I really do not remember, but if they played before, it would have been at Dallas. Dallas plays well at home. I don't think has Dallas lost at home? I don't think Dallas has lost it. Dallas lost one game at home against Denver. I think that's their only home.
And they lost Tampa. They lost against Tampa too.
But Tampa was in Tampa because that was opening night. That was Thursday, and Tampa got their ring, so that was in Tampa.
Okay. Let's see here. Dallas Cowboys. Let's see here. Wait a minute, what the New York Times said? They beat them 20-44.
Dallas beat the Giants 20-44, and that was in Dallas earlier this season.
No, I think that was.
They haven't played yet. They haven't played twice yet. They haven't played them yet.
They played them. I think they play them. Well, it's not saying where they play.
They play at the Giants this time. They might haven't played twice.
Oh, well, then if they're playing at the Giants this time, then they played in Dallas already.
They already played in. Okay. I mean, the thing about this Giants game, I mean, they're missing the playoffs for a 5th consecutive year. Judge is on the hot seat. You know, Daniel Jones has been hurt. Gettleman's going to be out. So at this point, nobody is safe. You got a lot of guys, like you got to play for pride right now. You're playing for jobs. Basically, you got new general managers coming in. They don't like you. They don't know you. They're not familiar with you. So you got to prove yourself now. And I think a lot of these Giants players will play with some pride here. This is another game I think will be tough. I think Dallas will win. I would love for the Giants to humble them and them to win. But just talent-wise, skill-wise, and Dallas's mission right now, Dan Quinn, I think Dan Quinn, not Dan Quinn, Dan Quinn, I think he'll brew up something to throw that offense off and sputter them. So I like Dallas in this one.
I don't think I think that Dallas is gonna get smacked, but I don't think Dallas is gonna get smacked by the Giants. I think Dallas is gonna get smacked by the Eagles. That's their last game of the season.
That's the last game, yeah. It'll be a lot more implications with the playoff and stuff coming into place then.
Because now the Eagles are a very different team now.
And they're different, and they hate Dallas so much. I think they hate Dallas more than any other team in the division, even more than the Giants. They're close. But yeah, the Eagles usually have something for Dallas. So we'll see as we get closer to week 18. So Tennessee and Pittsburgh, I already know you're picking Tennessee because you mentioned it earlier. Of course, I want Pittsburgh to this is the waning part of Ben's career. Like, I want them to win all of their games. Realistically, they probably won't. But if Pittsburgh can somehow imitate what Houston did against Tennessee and watch that film, then they're in there. But just realistically, most likely it'll be Tennessee to win that game. Houston at Jacksonville, who you like?
Houston at Jacksonville. Houston
at Jacksonville. Divisional battle.
Houston at Jacksonville. I think that probably, I don't know. Houston, I don't know. It's like two teams that look the same.
Yeah, they do mirror each other.
I don't know. I actually think Jacksonville going to play better with Urban Meyer gone.
Me too. And it's like the fact that they fired him at midnight just this morning. Any of the film that Houston has looked on was Urban Meyer's play calling and his nuances and stuff. They got an interim coach now. He might strip all of that and go somewhere different. So I don't think Houston has enough time to really prepare. So yeah, I like Jacksonville to win at home on this one too. Atlanta at San Fran, we got a Mike Shanahan and Matt Ryan reunion, which honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Ryan might reunite Mike Shanahan next year. But nonetheless, this is the guy who helped Matt Ryan get his MVP, helped Matt Ryan get to the Super Bowl. They're reuniting on Sunday. Who you like in the game with this matchup?
And they're playing where? San Francisco?
At San Fran.
San Francisco don't do that good at home. So I think I'm going to go with Atlanta.
Going with Atlanta on the road. But the only thing, though, is San Fran is clinging to that 7th spot. They can't afford any losses right now. You're at the very last spot in the NFC. I mean, you control your fate as well, but you cannot afford once you lose.
What I'm saying to you is that I agree. But then I'm also looking at Atlanta's San Francisco's banged up secondary, and then they got Kyle Pitts back there, and then they got what's his name? That Gabe Kyle guy, Hayden Hurst back there. And they got a banged up secondary. Mike Davis and Cordell Patterson are running pretty good right now. And they're running as a tandem, and they're running pretty well right now. And Here's the thing. The question becomes, can Atlanta slow down the San Francisco run?
Is Samuel back? Is Deebo Samuel back?
I don't know.
That might be a determining factor.
Yeah, that may be, because if Deebo back, but then it's like, then it comes down to how healthy is Deebo Samuel if he is back.
Right.
Deebo Samuel now, if he back, he a stud. I don't see nobody slowing him down.
Right. I mean, it could be kind of like the Dalvin Cook against Pittsburgh situation a couple of weeks ago. If he's back, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see. That's for sure. All right, Cincy at Denver. Who you like?
Cincy.
You like Cincy at Denver? Again, my heart. I'm rooting for Cincy to win the division, but I also am holding on to the last little glimmer of hope for my Steelers. The thing, altitude always plays a factor. We're looking at Denver. I feel like even though Denver was playing Detroit, Denver played such inspired ball last week, you know, with the death of Demaryius Thomas, and a lot of them were in the 88 decal and all the tributes and stuff like that. And it's almost Demaryius Thomas's birthday. He would have been 34 on Christmas. So I don't know if that might be lingering as well. I don't know if Denver can somehow manage to package that emotion and play so inspired like they did when the death was fresher. I like Denver in this game to kind of keep on, you know, with his birthday and stuff coming so close. That's probably the only thing. But otherwise, I mean, Cincinnati is very, very talented. So I'm kind of on both ends of the fence if Denver does that versus if they don't. So yeah, I'm looking at that game like that. All right, Cincinnati at Baltimore. Who do you like? Oh, excuse me, Green Bay. Sorry, Green Bay at Baltimore. Who do you like?
Oh, I think I'm going with Green Bay on this. I don't think that I told you now a long time ago, I don't think Lamar's well, and I'm gonna keep saying this.
Yeah, probably week 18, that Monday right after week 18, they're gonna be like, did you know that Lamar was playing with you? I'm like, yeah, I do. I've been saying it since week 8 on WTF Too. Where y'all been? So yeah, for reasons that we mentioned earlier when we were talking about the NFC going through Green Bay, those are honestly the reasons. The injuries, the bang up secondary, the quarterback questionable. Those are the reasons why we both had liked Baltimore. But Baltimore, if y'all put on that all black at M&T, it's very intimidating. We'll see how it goes, but we do both like Green Bay nonetheless in that one. Seattle at the Rams, divisional game. Who you like?
Seattle at the Rams.
At the Rams, yeah.
Here's the thing. The Rams are coming off a high. Seattle kind of struggled last week.
Even though they won, it was still a struggle. Yep.
But at the same time, who won the first time? Didn't the Rams win the first time?
The Rams won in Seattle. Yeah, now they're Seattle at Rams. But mind you, remember Arizona had beat LA in LA, and then in LA turned around.
Right. So that's why I was about to say, I don't think it's gonna be no sweep.
You don't think it's gonna be a sweep?
I think that as bad as Seattle is just one of them teams where it's just about the day. So the day that they play, it might be a really good day, or it might not be that good of a day. You know what I mean? Like last week when they played against Houston, they won, but it was just, yeah. But then sometimes they come out there and you be like, what? Where did this team come from?
Right. I just don't trust the protection for Russell Wilson against that front seven for the Rams. I don't know. I really think he's going to be harassed all day. And the Monday night game that we saw, even though LA has a shorter week, that's the LA team we've been looking for ever since Odell and Von Miller joined. I think we'll probably see that again because this is not the same Seattle team, the Legion of Boom days, the team that we saw knock Denver's head off in that Super Bowl. Yeah, those days are long gone. And honestly, I think Russell's heart and mind aren't even in anymore. We're already talking about, like you said, the clause where he might go to the Giants and stuff. I think he's over it. It kind of doesn't matter at this point. So I like the Rams in that one.
But that's exactly why I think that I don't think that the Rams are gonna repeat that behavior because they gave so much in that game.
No, I agree with that. I just think more so, like I said, I don't think Russell's heart, mind, body, and soul or anything are in it anymore. Like, I'm ready to get out of here.
I think Russ is the ultimate competitor. I think he'll play. I think he'll play good. I actually think they're gonna win that game on Sunday. I do.
I mean, perhaps we'll definitely see. New Orleans at Tampa. Of course, you mentioned earlier how tricky it is with New Orleans versus Tampa. It's at Tampa. I think Tampa's undefeated at home. I don't know who you like.
Oh, now I think that the defense is gonna light him up, but if Taysom Hill is under center, they
Yeah.
just no.
Yeah. Tampa, of course. Well, New Orleans, thankfully, they snapped their 5-game losing streak last week. They stopped that bleeding, but again, it was against the Jets. I think they returned to a 1-game losing streak right here because I think Tampa's looking at this like that Monday night game was huge because Tampa is right there. They're in the mix for a number 1 seed as well. And I think they want that. Of course, they do need some help, but losing a game definitely ain't gonna help them get there. So yeah, I like Tampa to win at home at this one. And by the way, that is the 8:20 primetime game on Sunday night. So that adds a little bit more interest to that game as well. So the Monday night game, Minnesota at Chicago. Nobody has bye weeks. We're back to 16 games this week. So Minnesota, Chicago, who do you like on Monday night?
Here's the thing. I like Minnesota a lot, right?
Mhm.
And Dalvin Cook been running like a madman, okay? But I also like the way that Justin Fields played last week too, okay? I don't know where that boy came from. I was like, wait a minute now. Matt Rule, you should have been fired off this game alone. Shucks, go and get Sam Donald. He out there doing this with broke ribs. Oh. But anyway, I digress. But I think Chicago is feeling a little moxie these days. I think that, how do I feel about this game? I feel that where is it at? They're playing at Chicago?
At Chicago, yep.
Oh, Chicago gonna win, Bo. Chicago.
You like Chicago? See, the only thing is Minnesota had 10 days to prepare for this game, like extra preparation. And I think
Chicago, Matt Nagy is trying to keep his job. And did you see how good they played against Chicago the other day? Nobody was expecting that.
No, I understand that, but I think it's kind of a lost cause. I don't think anybody thinks that Matt Nagy and Justin Fields, that experiment, I don't think people trust them together. Like, I don't think they like that for the future. But I'll give you all that. And I'm sure Chicago's owed a Monday night game because they should have beat the Steelers when they played them on Monday night. So they're due, they're owed it. And I'm sure they want to avenge that. But I don't know, just Minnesota had a little bit more time to prepare, a little bit more rest. That's part of the reason why I'm going with Minnesota on that one.
Okay.
We'll see. I mean, of course, obviously, one of us is going to be right and wrong, or hey, they might tie. I would love that. So my team ain't the only one somewhere with the tie. Us in Detroit. So yeah, we'll definitely see how it goes. So touchdown time, boy. Anything you want to add with this episode?
No. Actually, I think this is like one of the harder weeks to pick, honestly.
Yeah. So much playoff implications. And so many injuries so late in the season, and coaching jobs on the line.
And then you got to think about all the COVID stuff. How many people is out because of COVID?
That's true. That did definitely boom and increase as well over the past week. And so yeah, we will definitely see. Of course, next week we're getting closer to Christmas. So if you're out shopping, be careful, be safe. Lots of scamming going on, purse snatching, bag snatching. So everybody be careful. We appreciate you guys once again for tuning in and for the comments, for the love, for touchdown time, boy. Gridiron Goddess. We'll catch you next week. Merry Christmas, and we're out.